This awe-inspiring piece of engineering is the hydroelectric power plant on the Inniscarra Dam. Below us is the River Lee, which is simply one of the most famous salmon rivers in Ireland. And above us is the Inniscarra Reservoir.
Now that is the venue where teams from 25 different nations will be battling it out for one of the biggest prizes in competition angling. What is it? It's the 4th World Feeder Championships.
So this is match day, and behind me is the Inniscarra Reservoir, which is the venue for this year's championships. You can see the amount of work that's gone in around us just to make this tournament happen. There are 25 nations taking part this year, and they're split into 5 sections, A to E, with an angler from each country in each section. But before we even got here on the bank, the town of Coachford provided a fantastic welcome for all of those anglers. The kind of reception you only get in Ireland wasn't that fantastic. Well, with the fun and frolics out of the way, I caught up with some of the managers to hear their thoughts on this event. What would it mean to you guys to get on that podium in your home country?
It would be unbelievable. Ireland have never won a team medal, in any course event, in float or in feeder, so of course it would be unbelievable, And we'll give effort, like as I say, we'll be down here 5-6 weekends, we fish festivals here, we've done all we could, so I'm just hoping it'll come right.
Well, I'm sure we'll be favourites. I think us, Ireland, Hungary with Thomas Walter Thomas, I think he's an unbelievable coach.
Yes, we are in the top teams, but the top teams are not 2 or 3 teams anymore, as it was a couple of years ago in feeder fishing. I think we can talk about now 5, 6, probably 7 teams who can win this event. I'm proud to say that probably we are one of them.
What does it mean to your guys in your team to be representing their country in an event like this?
Well, obviously they're very proud, like everywhere else. It's you're ranked amongst the top 6 anglers in the country, of course.
Who do you fear in the competition most, do you think?
Oh, the red hot favourites, England, without a doubt. England and the Netherlands, Hungary, Belgium. Italy's not going to be too far away either.
Nobody.
Not even England?
They are the favourite team here, but fear in fishing I've never heard about. I don't, fear is not the right word.
What kind of level of pressure does that put on your team here, Tom?
Well, we are ranked number 1. We just haven't won a World Championships. So we're joint 1 with Holland on the rankings, but we haven't won one, so we don't feel like we're ranked 1. And until we win one, we're not going to settle, we're not going to be happy. Until we've got a gold medal around our neck, we're going to keep working and work hard.
Before the match commenced, each team had the opportunity to practice on the match stretch, and we caught up with Team England just before manager Tommy Pickering was delivering important news about team selection. Well, Andy, just looking over now, there's a very private moment going on, and that's the England team manager Tommy Pickering announcing who's in the team. And we have got a little bit of news. You've had a quick chat.
Yeah, they've done all the practice, they've worked as hard as anybody else. Tommy said just a few minutes ago, this is the bit of being a manager that he really doesn't like at all, telling guys that have worked hard and come all this way that they're not fishing. Tommy, that looked like a rather difficult conversation you were having there. Tell us the news.
Well, it's one of the hardest things, leaving people out, but at the end of the day, it's better off being here than it is sat at home. And I've picked Rob Button as my 6th man. And,
how did he take it?
He took it like a man, like I expect him to. And the thing is about it, he's now got in the 6th. And I think nobody would be any illusion that he'll be here for a long time.
The starting hooter is upon us, and just to recap, there are 25 nations represented, with an angler in each of the 5 sections. The winner of each section gets 1 point, and the overall winners will be the team with the lowest score at the end of the 2-day tournament. Well, there we are, there's the first hooter, and that signifies that the lads can put some bait in. Andy, their nerves are going to be sort of settling a little bit now, aren't they? And they're getting into the flow.
You can feel the tension, can't you? It's fantastic. We're here in A section behind Steve Ringer of England on A22. 5 sections in the match, as we said earlier on. The pre-baiting period is really important because they're fishing for species like bream and roach. Put a bit of bait in, attract some fish into your swim and hopefully get a good start. And that's so important in these matches.
I noticed there, just looking at Steve himself, he's put a couple of feeders in early doors, but now he's just sitting tight, watching everybody else. Is he trying to keep the disturbance down in his peg and hope that fish will move to him?
Well, you'll notice one of the things on this piece of water, there's no flow. Fishing in a normal river, you put a lot of bait in. If you overfeed, you can allow your peg to settle down a bit, some of the bait gets washed away. There's no flow here to take the bait away. If they overfeed, once you've put it in, you can't take it out.
There we go, look, he's just moving his tip around, making it look like he's doing something. Looking around at his neighbours, he's having a quick sneak and peek, and we can hear clutches and reels and casts. And there we go, this is it. What he's done, he's put 2 feeders in there through that 10-minute period. That's the hooter that signifies the start of the competition. This is all in now, this is official. We've started. The 4th World Feeder Championships is underway, and I tell you what, he's not got that much bait out there, so he's going to be getting quick bites. Well, there we go, that was very, very quick, no time at all, and first chuck, Steve Ringer, he's got one.
Tiny little roach. It's interesting, just been speaking to the England manager, Tommy Pickering, before the match started. You'll notice that Steve's got a really quite heavy feeder on for the range he's fishing at, and the reason for that's very simple. The water out there, just off the bank, is 30 feet deep, Rob.
That's a lot deeper than we would normally fish in the UK, but certainly of these events, that's the sort of depth they're fishing at, and it's why these lads are so particularly good at this style of method, because you know what? They're out here doing it. Just looking up, a couple of pegs up, that's the Belgian Benny Mertens. Very, very capable continental angler. Of course, used to the deep canals of Belgium. He's no slouch and he's caught now. That's going to be a net job, I would expect, and he's going to be very, very pleased with that, because knowing that there's something out there a little bit bigger than the razor blades he's been knocking out so far, that's a great start for Steve.
You can see the rod tip bouncing. He's taking his time, but there's an urgency to what he's doing, and the routine of bringing that fish up to the surface, just allowing it to nod its head a couple of times. The last thing you want to do is see them hit the top too early, because that's when they can come off, and you can see straight in the net, and that's a bream. Well, that's Arnoud van der Stad on peg 17 for Holland. They're one of the main rivals to England in this event. That's a hybrid, I think they're on.
Look like it, yeah. Look like it's about 10-12 ounces there. So that's not a bad fish. Probably the second biggest that we've seen coming out of the stretch at the moment, and he'll be very happy with that, because if you're out catching the smaller roach, great, you can bite, but really we need these bigger fish to come in to build that weight. With the competition underway, it was tricky to speak with the anglers on the bank, but Andy caught up with England hotshot Steve Ringer in practice to discuss tactics.
So Steve, we're familiar with the concept of feeder fishing, but the World Championships has helped things go to a whole new level. I think you're just going to run us through one of your rigs and show us how things have changed over the last few years.
Yeah, you've got set rules or restrictions, whatever you want to call them, for the World Feeder Championships. The first one being you have to have a totally free running rig. So what I've done, in the early days our rigs were fairly crude. You know, we've been learning every year. We just used to thread the feeder onto the line and it ran up and down. Now I've got a little bead, a couple of crimps and a little stiff link of fluorocarbon. Nice and anti-tangle free, still runs up and down the line, so if the main line does break, fish isn't tethered. That's the idea behind rigs must be totally free running.
That's something you've made yourself, of course.
Yeah, you know what I mean, but it's dead easy. All you need is a spool of fluorocarbon, a couple of crimps and a little tiny bead. And obviously you've got your snap link swivel at the bottom just to allow you to quick change the feeder. So that's nice and free running. Then I've got another little bead running on the main line. That just acts as a buffer and just stops up against, I've tied a 6-inch twisted loop in the main line, so the buffer just stops the feeder banging against the knot, which could cause a crack off or the line to break. So you've got your twisted loop. The idea being that creates a stiff boom, stops the rig from tangling. When you're casting, the last thing you want to be doing is reeling in and finding you in a big tangle. So it stops the line getting damaged. So it's got two uses: stops the line getting damaged, stops it tangling. And if we move down, another rule of the World Feeder Championship, 50 centimetres is as short a hook length as you can go. So I've got 50 centimetres from there, and I've got a nice big size 10 or 12 hook because we're going to be using in this year's World Championship.
The other thing that's interesting to this is that most people who feed a fish would do it, you know, you just pretty well chuck your feeder and that's it. So you've taken this again to a different level, to a different sort of area of skill. Where are the edges? How do you find that you know, advantage to other people? Is it bait mixes? Is it hook baits? Just explain to us.
There's several things. On big venues like this, one of the first things we're trying to find is where the fish want to be. I mean, the match is split into four sections on the main match length, one section down here on the garden centre. We've been looking for like depths. That's the first thing, finding a depth where the fish want to sit at. You know, I mean, and not just some. There might be a depth where you can catch small fish, but then you need a depth where you can catch skimmers. So we're trying to meet the two in the middle. So you find that depth where you get roach and you get your skimmers. That's the first thing we've been looking for. And another thing is the water's very clear, as you might have already noticed. So when it comes to choice of ground bait, we've got very dark mixes. And the reason being that they offer the fish a bit of safety. Bright mixes could spook the fish in the very clear water. There isn't a lot of predators from what I've seen in here, so you haven't got to worry about that. But fish just feel safer feeding in a dark mix when the water's clear.
What is in that mix?
I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
We're only a couple of hours into this 5-hour match on day one of the competition, but already things are hotting up for Team England and Steve Ringer in particular. Well, we've seen that there's a fair amount of traffic going up and down the banks. We've got a reasonable number of spectators here, but also we've got the bank runners and assisters and also the team managers. Now they're using their eyes to watch what the guys are doing out there on the coalface, but also behind every peg there is a fact sheet which gives a little bit of information as to what's going on. So for a start, this is section B, peg 21. It's Rodriguez M. Roberto, and we know that he's from Spain, but the important bit is the line along the bottom. In the first hour, we know that Rodriguez has caught 26 fish. In the second hour, his catch rate has dropped a little bit. He's now on 15 fish. Now that might mean a change of tactics. Alternatively, it might mean that the fishing has slowed down a bit. How do we know this? Well, in the corner of every box there's a steward, and each steward has 2 people that they're keeping their eyes on, making sure that the rules are adhered to, that nobody enters these taped areas that isn't allowed to, because remember, this is a World Championships and the rules are very, very strict. Well, B section now, Andy, and we're just looking over at Francis McGoldrick of Ireland, who's sort of set in this section alight at the moment, and his tactics are very, very different from everyone else.
Great, isn't it? And this is the local edge that you have, Irish anglers on a water that they know well, they've practiced on. And you'll notice that Francis is casting at about 13 metres only, where everybody else is, chucking 30, 40 yards. He's fishing almost in feeder terms under his rod tip. And in the first hour, he's had 40 fish. Now, not all of them are big.
Look at that, that's a bite very, very quickly there. He's got that many down there. That seems to be the size of it. This small roach, couple of 3 ounces. Yeah. But you can build a big weight. If you're catching a fisher chuck at that range, this is smashing it up.
It is, isn't it? And again, that's the local knowledge that you get. If that's a method that he's practiced, it's something that's really been working for him. He's got a tiny little feeder on there, that 50 centimetre hook length that he's got to have. And you can see he's just barely casting, crouched over his rod, waiting, anticipating for that bite to come.
It's just hit the bottom there, just saw the rod tip at the bottom, so it's quite deep. You can see from the terrain on the bank that it drops down quick, and that was 30 seconds maximum before he's had that fish.
A section in the first hour, probably Steve Ringer of England is leading, I would say. 19 fish in the first hour for Steve. He's had some skimmers, he's had a few hybrids and a few roach. So there, in B section, is England's Adam Wakelin, and that, Rob, is his first decent fish, peg 12. He's had 35 small roach in the first hour. But that is a significant big step for England, because that's his first proper bream, I suppose. It looked a bit bigger than a skimmer. Well, look, we're behind Adam Wakelin on peg 12. How's Adam doing so far?
I'm running Adam's section. He's doing really well. He's got, I think he's ahead on fish counts, and his fish are bigger.
So how many did he have in the first hour?
He's had 35 in the first hour. I mean, there's the Irish chap's got 40. I say he's ahead on fish count. The Irish chap's got 40. His fish are tiny though, so Adam's fish are much bigger. He's ahead on weight, definitely.
Well, just as we arrived in this part of the section, we saw Adam land his first decent skimmer, and that's an exciting moment, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, a skimmer's worth loads of roach, and we've worked out how to catch the skimmers. Adam's particularly good at it. He's worked out really well in practice. He's caught quite a few skimmers, so he knew he was going to get one. He's chucked it out, got one straight away, and now I would have thought he's back on the roach in a few minutes.
All the while, Rob, Adam Wakelin keeps on catching fish. That looks half decent to me. That's a net job, isn't it?
Certainly as it's pulling back, he's just reached over for his net now, and he's had one netter earlier on in this tournament. He's going to be very happy to see this come on. And interestingly, there's just been an imperceptible change in conditions. There's a little bit more flat, calm waters come through, which you wouldn't necessarily think is a good sign, but the air pressure feels ever so slightly different to 20 minutes, half an hour ago. And we saw through the course of practice that the light and also the air pressure conditions have a big effect on whether these bream and hybrids feed, and he's going to be happy with that.
That's a super fish, look at that.
A fair few of those small roach.
Just trying to see if that's a skimmer or an actual bream. That looks like it could be rather a hybrid or a bream. The way it fought, I'd say that was a hybrid.
Well, the lions are well and truly roaring now. We're in section C. This is Phil Ringer of England, and the reports we're getting is that England are doing pretty well in this section as well.
Yeah, third hour, and this is peg C2. Phil's had a pretty steady match, and the talk on the bank is that he was top 5 about half an hour ago, and now it's starting to look like 1 or 2 bigger fish are showing up. And I'll tell you something, when Phil Ringer gets on big fish, watch out, because he's one of the most consistent big fish anglers in the country.
I see him regularly fishing in the UK Angling Championship as well, and he's just what I would class as a very, very safe pair of hands.
Oh, isn't he ever?
Very safe pair of hands.
Nice bream in the net safely. That's another kilo maybe, do you reckon? Well, no, it's not a kilo.
Not
That's
quite.
That's half a
more
kilo,
than I
but
thought. Nevertheless, it's a bream. Mid-numbers of C section now. We're just behind 14 and 15, and as we just look along that line, we look to number 12, Theo Lerich of Holland. Now, the powers that be tell me that this area was very good for skimmers in practice. It's an area known as the pipe. There's a little pipe that comes in, dropping a bit of water in. It's a bay. It's a bit shallower than everywhere else. But interestingly, they haven't been playing ball this morning.
No, and they must be moving down the match length, because we've seen in the lower numbers of C section 1 or 2 bream coming out, and even in B there were 1 or 2 showing. So maybe those fish it's such a big piece of water, isn't it? And fish swim. So maybe they're just moving down the match length, going on a hunt for food.
Another one for Phil now. Good steady playing action. You can hear the braid as it's coming in, and you can almost pick which type of fish it is from the pressure on the rings that the braid is producing. But here we have the net coming out, and this is the crucial time. We can see the fish flashing in the water, and it seems to be a little bit clearer down this end.
It does, doesn't it? I'll tell you what's interesting. We've got 2 brothers in the England team this year, Steve and Phil. Steve's much more intense. He's kind of, quite busy, and Phil's just super cool, isn't he? Look at this.
Yeah.
Just could be sitting on his local pleasure lake on a Sunday afternoon. There's another one for the net. And just behind us on peg 14, there's Nigel Holdsworth of Ireland. What we think on the bank here in C is that there are 3 people vying for first, second and third in the section. So it looks like Rodriguez of Spain in peg 1 is possibly winning. He's had a couple of big fish. We've seen Phil Ringer, Rob. I mean, Phil's had a really good hour. And here we've got Holdsworth, who in the first hour had 21 fish, second 18 fish, and they've just written on his card in his third hour also 18 fish, and with that he's got 4 bream and the rest of his fish a good backup of several nice roach.
Well, the match is progressing very nicely now, and we're in D section, which really is a section of 2 halves. We're on quite a promontory, and Andy, just behind us we've been concentrating on England, Ireland, Hungary and also Holland as the favourites. Hungary and Holland are down there, not faring so well.
No, I mean, we looked at Declan Camps from Holland, who's had 31 fish. He's had a few skimmers. It seems to be just the tactics that they choose. If you go all out for those small fish early on, or you go for the big fish, if it works, you're in gravy, really. They're really going well. And the England tactics have worked really well. Just seems to be that the Dutch maybe haven't. The Irish seem to be concentrating on small fish. They know this water probably better than anybody. Just wonder what's going to happen at the end. We're coming up to the sort of the last throws of day 1 in terms of the match. We haven't had a look at E section yet. I just find this fascinating. The tactics are it's really interesting to see the subtle differences that the guys are using to keep bringing the fish in.
There we are, that's it for the top end of the section. We're going to wander now down to the end of D section to find out how England are doing. But what we are also seeing is just behind the camera there is a big load of low cloud rolling in, and it wouldn't surprise me if the heavens don't open very soon.
Well, we did say if you wait 5 minutes the Irish weather will change on you, and it certainly has.
Absolutely, that came in, I could see it over the hills. It came rolling in and then it's landed, and we are now that little bit further down in D section, sheltering with the Slovakian team, who are very kindly looking after us as we look down the bank there. The man on the tall platform is representing Ireland.
Anthony Kersley. Yeah, it's interesting, that platform, isn't it? I mean, That's the kind of setup you might see in a really deep reservoir with those long legs on his platform, just to try and get him out of the water. But next door, Mick Viles, and Mick, obviously of England, we think maybe winning this section too. It does look like England are having a really good day here on Inniscarra Reservoir.
It doesn't look like there's an awful lot of activity going on down there at the moment. In fact, this rain seems to have slowed things down significantly. But the situation at the moment is that Mick is well and truly, we feel, in the lead, although we've heard that Belgium are doing quite well as well. Just looking up the guy with the yellow net up there, that's Mikhail Dunny of Russia. I don't think we've seen a Russian angler catch a fish as we've been passing. That certainly doesn't mean to say they haven't been catching, but this is the first time we've seen some Russian action.
Former world feeder champions, of course.
Absolutely, and that's a decent
That's
sized
a good
bream.
fish. Look at the size of that. I mean, that is a fish that is easily 1.5 kilos. That's a game changer there.
In this section, it's very much up and down. You've got to get up there, lift that line up as quickly as you can do to keep the line out of the way of the snags. Not a big fish, that one, just a small fish, but nevertheless it is a fish. And in the time we've been here, we've seen 2 people have bites. Into the final hour of fishing on day 1 here in Ireland, where the weather has taken a turn for the worse, and we take a look at E section on a very different stretch of the Inniscarra Reservoir. Now, one of the big differences here is the width of water, and one of the effects that will have is the significance of the end pegs. Now, on the stretch that we've seen so far, there was 4 sections. Altogether, there's only effectively 2 end pegs, 1 at each end. However, they've got an awful lot of water in front of them, so they can pull fish in from straight out in front. Here, they haven't got that. It's not as wide, so the end pegs will have more of a significance.
Of course, when the fish get pressurised, they spread out to the end pegs.
Absolutely. So what we'll probably see is the end pegs will have that little bit of an advantage, but it's interesting listening to the guys on the bank that they think that this man down here, Dean, is doing incredibly well. It's England once again, and it's another decent run for England in this section.
Well, here we are in E section, Rob. Made our way through the rain from D, about 5 miles down the road. This is the famous garden centre stretch, and we're behind Peter van der Willeck of Holland on peg 22. And as you can see, he's just stuck the net under a rather lovely Inniscarra bream. There's some bream showing here.
There's quite a few, and the reports that we're getting so far is that it's this end of the section that's producing the bigger weight, this end of the section that's producing the bigger fish. And up here, not only have we got Holland, who are one of the favourites for this, but we've also got a local lad who, to all intents and purposes at the moment, we believe is towards the top of the section.
Just look at the way he's playing this fish. It doesn't look like it's particularly big, but it's that kind of leading a dog action. It's just kind of smooth, keep it moving, keep the fish coming towards you. Don't let it change direction. Don't let it turn and run away. That could be one of those hard-fighting hybrids.
Absolutely, we can see it flashing in the water, and it's bit of a loony he wants to see there, just turning at the last second before the net, and that's why there's no messing around with these fish. You need them in as quickly as possible.
Fantastic stuff.
Get them in and on the scoreboard. Slovakia now into a fish, and this is Milan Michlik. Looks like another hybrid. It's got that golden colour to it, and he's separating the Irish from the Dutch, and there may well be a group of these fish just moving up and down on that line. They're fishing about 30 odd yards out. We've just heard the 5-minute hooter, and this is where the final pace really picks up. We see there our Flying Dutchman has got a fish on. It's a roach, but nevertheless it's extra weight in the bag that he desperately needs at the moment. He's chasing Ireland.
I reckon that's another bream, and I just think that's a great piece of angling. That's fantastic, the speed that he brought that in. He knows the clock's ticking down, minutes are ticking away. Got to get that in the net, get out, maybe get another one, possibly time for another 2. Phenomenal. Moment of truth in, Rob, for Dean Barlow.
Absolutely, that looks a decent net. Mainly silvers. It looks like there might be a bream possibly in there, certainly a hybrid or 2.
The breams simply haven't fed on this section. I know they kind of cruise through here, and they've been sitting at the top end of the section in the higher numbers, which we'll probably see in a minute. But that is a fantastic net of fish.
11.290. That is 4 kilos nearly above anyone else along here so far. That shows the quality of this man.
So Rob, peg 22, Peter van der Willeck of Holland. And this is the sharp end of the section. This is where we really find out how well England have done.
Okay, 13.366. 13.366.
So peg 24 then. This is Ireland's Richard Pratt. Just zeroing the scales, and here is the weight that we think will win section E, the garden centre section.
20.176.
20.176 kilos from Richard Pratt.
20.176.
What a performance.
20.176, 11 fish, last hour.
So Richard, just talk us through your match today, your tactics.
Well, first of all, I fed 3 lines, and the second line I fished out 35 turns, and I went on it like after a wild one, not in there, so I've carried on fishing for small fish, close in, lots of small fish, but the Dutch fella started catching very well, so I've had to go out and try it, and basically I've started catching there and I've stayed there. Do you know what I mean?
Fish, aren't they?
Yeah, but the fight like mad when you get them into that clear water, like they're like hybrids, big hybrids. You know what I mean? But it's very, very good fishing, like.
Favourites England lead the way, with all their anglers finishing no lower than 4th in their sections, joined on the podium positions by the Irish and the Dutch. An impressive 20 kilos on day 1 put local lad Richard Pratt well and truly at the top of the tree in the individual tournament, and with 5 anglers on 1 point, 2 of them English and 1 Irish, it was looking like a great start for the Lions and the host nation. Well, you join us on day 2 in the place that we ended up day 1, but just look at the weather. It's a very, very different day today, Andy.
This is a massive day for England, massive day for Ireland, massive day for Holland.
Absolutely. 3 teams actually that we looked at in quite a lot of depth yesterday because we thought they might be favourites, but that result for England, my word, a couple of firsts in section, brilliant, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Arguably the best result in feeder fishing so far ever.
What we've got now is we've got a really exciting scenario. We've got 2 members of the England team, Steve Ringer and Mick Viles, and one of the members of the Irish team, Richard Pratt, who could all be world champions after 5 hours of fishing today.
The old cliche is half time, and that's exactly what it is.
I think we've got a really good team this year and really a good hope, and we'll be very happy if we finish up in the top 2 or 3.
Biggest day probably in my angling life.
We're still lacking that gold medal, and that's all we're looking for, really.
We're just looking across now at Ireland's Richard Pratt, peg E10. Same section, very different peg. He was our overnight leader, but he's not faring so well this morning, Andy. No,
big chance for Richard to be individual world champion and in turn give Ireland a single point that will really help them in their quest for a podium place here. Been a frustrating start for Richard. I know that he didn't want to draw in this part of the section, the kind of no man's land area, peg 10 right in the middle. The talk on the bank here for the last couple of days has been that when this stretch is under pressure, all of the fish kind of split and go to the end pegs, so this is just not where he wanted to be. Very different story on E12, Rob. Felix Sherman of Germany won his section yesterday, and he's already, with 40 minutes into the match, had 40 fish, and that's not just small roach either.
No, that's right. He seems to have nailed on a tactic down here, and we heard you say just a moment ago that this is the doldrums stretch, certainly through the middle of the match. This is going to be a bit quieter, but he's flying for a first hour and another man that's in with the chance of an individual gold.
So we've moved back up to E1, Phil Ringer. Fish coming out of the tail end of the section. After the first hour, Phil has had 30 roach. He reckons he needs to be in contention here 150 fish in the duration of the match.
We land up here with Dirk Effelinck from Holland. A8, needing a good result, and I've just looked at his board, he's had 11 fish. They're going to be mainly skimmers, and Andy, the Dutch team tactic is try and catch these skimmers, but the day's not playing ball.
No, we've seen the Dutch manager cycling up and down the path behind the fishery, looking very frustrated, very concerned. It's still looking as if they may podium, but it's going to be a real struggle from here on in. The thing is with this sort of fishing, you know it can change so quickly, and with the wind blowing across like this, you'd expect it to be pushing the bream into this area of the lake, wouldn't you? We can see that Dirk's now playing a fish. It could well be a skimmer.
We were looking at the fish counts on the overall team scores, and it was absolutely clear that Holland went for bream yesterday, and also that Ireland went for silvers. Does that play into their hands today?
I think so, to be honest. But we're better prepared than yesterday. I think yesterday we got away with murder, to be honest. Yes, a little bit too bream orientated, but we caught them all week. So you get your practice boxes and you practice the best of your ability, and every day we caught bream.
The person who seems to be winning a section is the Belarusian Alexei Yakubovich on peg 11, and he seems to be just on a little point there, that minutest bit of advantage. What do you think it is about that location that gives him the edge?
Well, whenever you look at a natural water, the key to finding out what's around you is just look at the bank behind you, and you can see more or less what the slope is behind you. You can see the rock formations, you can see whether there's trees in the water, and with flooded river valleys, obviously they haven't dug this on purpose. What they've done is they've dammed a valley, so what's behind you a lot of the time is in front of you, so you can see how quickly it drops off, etc. And just behind him you'll see a big pile of rocks. There's going to be a lot of rocks down there directly in front of me. He's on that corner. That's definitely a geographical feature, and of course fish love geographical features.
Bream is such a big bonus in a section when it's so hard and mostly catching small roach.
Tommy will be happy with that one. That's a great fish for Dean.
Probably the performance of the team for England yesterday. Although he only got a fourth in section on E, he was in an area where all the small fish were. He managed 11 kilos when all those around him were managing 4, 5s and 6s. And that 4 points put England on 11.
Well, an event like this takes an awful lot of organisation. I've got the event organiser with me now, Tommy Lawton. Now, what a great event. It's been a brilliant weekend.
Yeah, fantastic so far. Well, it's almost complete. We're well pleased with the event.
Competitors seem to be really, really happy as well. A lot of fish being caught everywhere. Is this the standard that people can expect over here?
Well, I hope they are pleased with it. This place, what we're trying to achieve here, that we've all kind of equal pigs, and it can be one off of any pig. So I think it's fairly good that way.
That's the thing about international match fishing. Although first place is everything, and that's all most people are interested in, when they realise they can't win, they're really desperate to try and get a medal, because there's so much time and investment, both money and time invested in getting them just here on the bank. Wassisi's playing a fish here by the look of it, Rob. This looks like another bream. Taking his time here. Maybe it's not. Just saw when his rod tip went up, it really bent. Oh no, it's another roach. They're using such soft rods here, it's sometimes difficult to pick up how big a fish. Lovely plump little Inniscarra roach there for Wassis, the man on C12 for France.
Paul Lee's there now, Irish Hope in section C.
Peg 7.
And he's holding his own. It's a big battle developing now between Holland and Ireland.
So nip and tuck in these matches, because you've got that. The Irish, we feel, are having a good day. The Dutch having a slightly disappointing day. The two will meet in the middle somewhere. This, I feel, for the silver and bronze will be really, really tight.
The Lions were roaring at the front of the pack as the Dutch and the Irish battled for the remaining silverware, but all eyes were on this man, Steve Ringer, who once again was flying. Seems to be the action station of the section, just around the corner towards the higher numbers. E20.
Zokbenza of Romania, yeah, he's had 9 fish. Now, that might not sound significant, especially as we're talking about Germany having 40 plus, but the fish that he's catching are proper bream. A pound fish, some of them 2 pounds. They're the really lovely Inniscarra slabs, and you can see he's just about to slip the net under another one, Rob.
Very interesting that they've moved a little further down this stretch than they were yesterday. It was the very end that seemed to be producing them. But why is this significant? Well, for a start, it takes a potential World Championship individual medal away from 2 anglers, the German Felix Schermann and the Irishman Richard Pratt.
We're in the 3rd hour. This is peg B1, Adam Wakelin of England. Talk on the bank, he's had 67 fish, and we think that Adam might well be winning his section, Rob.
Absolutely, he's got a bite there straight away, and he's on it. He's just an incredibly consistent angler. You know, we saw him yesterday, he was on the money. He's on it again today, and this man, oh, he's just lost it there, but this man has a pretty good chance of actually the individual title as well. He had a second yesterday. If he wins in section this time, it puts him right up there too. Anthony Kersley into another cracking roach there, helping Ireland charge to the podium, and it's getting quite close now between Ireland and Holland. Every single fish is one step closer to Ireland's first ever silverware in this tournament, and they will be over the moon if they can achieve honours in front of a home crowd. This is looking interesting now. He's had a bite, he's up on his platform, up on his feet, and oh, he's lost that one. And the reason he was up on his feet there is there's one or two rocks out in front, as is often the case all the way down this stretch. There's a few stones there, and if you can stand up, you just get a little bit higher and hold that feeder out from any stones. If it catches on a stone, there's a chance the hook link will go slack, the fish might fall off, as indeed happened there. But let's look at Steve in the individual classifications. He was one of the section winners yesterday. 5 guys won their sections. Mick Viles will come to a little bit later, we haven't seen him yet, but Felix Schermann of Germany up in E section, he's had a move of sections today, he's up there and he's not winning his section. But Steve Ringer, who's had a section win already, does look like he's up there, and if he comes first or second, it may be that we'll have a 3-point world champion. Now Mick Viles, England, and it's D20. He's just a couple of pegs down. 3 actually, D17 yesterday, so he knows the area, he knows it's quite snaggy. He's sitting quite high out of the water to get that extra height, and he's doing very well. Word on the ground is that he might be winning this at the moment, as in section. And if he does, that will be 2 section wins, which may mean an individual world champion title.
Yeah. He has got quite a lot of competition further down the section though. Yet again, the French coming good in this section on peg 13, Christophe Catalan, who's fish for fish with Mick, we think.
Just looking down on Christophe Catalan now, and as you can see, he's standing up on his platform. He's got his arms high in the air. He's got a decent fish on, and he's trying to get it away and out of danger from those stones. And there we have it. That's what he's been catching all the way through this event. Ripple of applause from the spectators, and I've just had a word with his bank runner down there. He thinks he's on about 17, 18 kilos, which may well be enough to take this section. There we see Steve's into another fish, but this one once again has found rocks, and this will be a bit crucial at this stage in the proceedings. He's going to want to land everything that he possibly can, and if his feed is getting caught up on the rocks, that's going to cause him to lose fish, which is exactly what he doesn't want at this stage in proceedings. These boys are very, very accurate. They've got the fish feeding in a certain place. He's just standing up on his box there now. We'll have good balance for that. If he falls off, this will make interesting television. And that's well and truly locked. Well and truly locked. He'll be lucky to get that one out. There we go. That's pinged the line. That's broken, so he's got to get that in. Reel the remnants of the line in as quickly as he possibly can. Pick another rod up. Just throw that one down on there. He's not going to mess around retying a rig up. He's got another one set up.
There was a lot at stake at this stage, and every fish was vital.
1 minute 30 seconds left on the clock. Steve Ringer still going at it. Every single fish now counts.
1 minute 10 seconds.
1 minute 10 seconds we just hear is the count. He's just had a roach. Has he got time for another? We see his hands moving very, very quickly. He wants to get this out and in the water. He's looking good at the moment for the overall section. It's still very hard to call. Miscast. Back in again. Pressure's getting to him. 50 seconds left. No time to bait. Get that bait in the water. Nothing in the feed. It's going to be a slow sinker now because there's nothing in it. He might get one on the drop.
I love these moments of tension in these big matches, Rob, because
Absolutely
this is
incredible.
where it stands and falls. Look at Steve Ringer's face. Glenn Lawrence standing behind him over his left shoulder. So much at stake for the England team here.
It's 30 seconds left before these guys will win this competition. Nobody's going to touch them. The big question is whether or not this man or Mick Viles or indeed any other members of the team have done enough to get that individual gold. But as we've heard them say all the way through, together they stand, together they fall. It is a team thing that they want. They've got 10 seconds to get it in.
Remember, this has got to be in the net before the hooter goes. Go on, Steve.
Oh, it's out the water. It's out the water, so it counts. There we go. That's
fantastic. Steve Ringer wears one for the team, and the hooter goes. Pat on the back for the man on peg C4. Fantastic.
And that was it. Game over. And the teams had done everything they could. It was now time for the scalesmen to tally up the scores.
I think Mick's either first or second. Obviously, I worked out in my head, Mick's got a weight advantage over me as well. So we shall see. To be honest, the team on the podium, and if we get 2 individuals on the podium as well, you can't ask for more than that.
Tommy told me earlier on how much it's hurt you the last 2 years not winning it. Why? Tell me why.
It guts me because everyone always says England are the best, but people forget there's a lot of very other good countries. You know, I mean, we're good in England, but all these other countries from all over the world, they're very good as well. So, you know, I mean, to be the best of the best is everything.
Scales on their way, mate.
We'll see.
Steve Ringer now, here it is. This is his net, and this is where the mark is going to be set. We've got a 3 kilos and a 2 kilos so far. Yeah. 11,643. That is a phenomenal result. Let's consider the 3 results that we weighed in so far. 2 kilos, 3 kilos, 3 kilos, 11 kilos. Why is Steve Ringer so good? Denmark now, Søren Sørensen, and the man that we thought might upset the apple cart.
This is the way that could decide whether Steve Ringer has won his section and has 2 points and is therefore in with a very good chance of being individual world champion.
I don't think he's got enough there. I don't think he's got enough.
Let's have a look. Oh, it's 10. It's 10. It's 10, Rob.
It's 10. That's incredible. It's 10. That means that Steve Ringer, by all accounts, should
section
winner.
Section winner.
I've got goosebumps.
Oh,
looking at that. That's awesome. And here we have D section France. They say they think it's between 15 and 17 kilos. It's looking like it is. If it's not a section win, it's going to be close, and it looks like it's going to be between Mick Viles and him for 16,404. Big arm in the air on that. Big round of applause as well. That is a great weight. Mick Viles now weighing in. This is the question as to whether or not Steve Ringer can be usurped from that top slot. There's a couple more people to weigh yet, and he needs to get more than 16 kilos, but we've seen a 16 kilo weight from the French, so we don't think this is going to be enough to do that.
11,019. 11,019 for Mick Viles from D20. A great big round of applause from the crowd behind him. What a fantastic performance from Mick.
So England had done it. Team world champions, individual gold and bronze, and a very, very happy England manager.
Get on it, yay!
We did it.
Come on, mate.
We did it. 4 years in the making. Couldn't be any prouder, honestly. You happy with that?
Oh, you happy?
I couldn't be happy, mate. I couldn't be happy.
I tell you so, I'm proud of Perry.
Silly question. How are you?
Awesome, mate. I never thought I'd feel like this again. And sorry, mate. I never thought I'd feel like this again. It's just the best feeling in the world. And we've created quite a few world champions and a double world champion in Steve. It's unbelievable, really. So fantastic feeling. A lot of hard work, and we've took a lot of stake, and we've took a load of stuff that people have thrown at us. We've got 6 lads now, so I think that'll be me retired, and just concentrate on me and Glenn running team lights.
And what a way to seal a World Championships victory. An incredible margin and a faultless performance for England. Ireland secured their first ever silverware with second, and Holland held on to bronze by the narrowest of margins. Steve Ringer's perfect score was unbeatable, and he was crowned individual world champion. A brilliant performance for Germany's Felix Sherman saw him take silver, and bronze honours fell to England's Mick Viles, putting 2 Brits on the podium.
Steve Ringer, world champion. How does that sound?
I don't think it's sunk in, to be honest. It's just been an unbelievable 2 days. I just can't. To get team gold and individual gold, like, life doesn't get any better, and I think, like, as it goes with highlights, only my son being born is the only thing that tops it.
You said to me this morning that this was the biggest day in your angling life, Steve Ringer.
Yeah.
Look around your neck.
I know, I've always wanted a gold medal. That's the one sort of thing that's been missing out of my angling achievements, and now I've got 2. You just can't ask for more than that.
Congratulations, mate.
Cheers, thank you very much.